Today's episode is brought to you by High School Sports.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. Another week of the crazy off-season shenanigans has continued and concluded. Yeah. And by concluded, I mean we posted an announcement to our Discord server literally 1 minute. So, yes. Still going on, but we're here to make some sense of it while we can in between the mayhem.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting us to make the decision to kind of be like, yeah, we're gonna go into a little vacation mode. We have that leeway, right? We can pull it's holiday mode for High Noon, and if nothing was happening, why not? But we got stuff to talk about, so we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, hopefully people believe us now when we have to miss an episode that it's for a reason, because we had the excuse. It's a holiday week, but we're here anyway.
We are here anyway, and there's actually a lot of news to talk about and whatnot. And we even had, just for those wondering what the intro was about, we had a random tangent about our high school sports experiences that was actually brought on by, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but not completely random. Oh yes, my Hoorig. Not completely random, but mostly random for those of you not listening to the pre-shows over at twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast on Mondays at 7 Eastern. You should definitely be there. But let's jump into our housekeeping. Blackwatch Report, of course. They don't take holidays. They don't take days off. They don't take weeks off. They don't take anything off. They're always there with brand new Tier 2 Overwatch episodes. Thorn and Kyle are keeping at it. Make sure you guys are following them at Blackwatch Report, or I think it's Blackwatch Report. They're missing one. They're missing one letter.
Thorn doesn't know how to spell. Don't worry. Don't let him fill your head with any ideas of Twitch's fault or Twitter's fault or anything like that.
You can put as many characters as you want in the name. Don't let him.
It's Thorn Rain's fault at Blackwatch Report.
Yes. Make sure you're adding them on there. But let's talk a little bit about what we did this week. DB, anything fun and exciting for you?
Oh, another week, another win for my Buffalo Bills, Blevins. That is just the way it goes when you're Super Bowl Lombardi trophy bound, baby. Another win. They're going to 8-3, so obviously I'm still in good spirits. Couple more difficult games coming up on the schedule.
Ooh, who do we even have left?
Well, for starters, if you need something to be thankful for, hopefully it's the firing of Jason Garrett after the Buffalo Bills humiliate the Dallas Cowboys during your Thanksgiving dinners. When you watch that and when you see the Bills winning, think of me, everybody. That's all I ask. Don't think of me. Spend time with your family. It's a holiday. That's the one of the few days of the year it's okay not to think of me. I promise. I'm not.
I wish I could.
Yeah, I won't. You can't. There's no day. I message you on Discord every day.
That's true.
I will not let you forget about me. But the viewers, you're allowed to on family holidays.
Yes. I mean, that's going to be what I'm going to be doing, is certainly rooting for the Buffalo Bills at Thanksgiving. Although I don't even know the Thanksgiving I'm going to. My girlfriend's family's house is. It's gonna have roughly 10,000 people there, at least comparatively to what my family does, which is exactly our immediate family, and that's it. Whereas pretty much anyone that my girlfriend's parents have ever met is invited to this dinner, and a lot of them come because the food is amazing. So,
as long as the Cowboys fans are resigned to the garage, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
I don't know if there's going to be Cowboys fans because we're still in New York. Technically, we're not in Cowboys country, although
there's only one team in this state with a winning record, and that's on the west side of it.
True. Western New York all around. But for me, I'm still doing a myriad of other games. TFT grind is feeling real good. Season 2 or set 2 for TFT is real good. Runeterra is gone for the time being, so I'm sad about that. And I actually guested on Tormented by Gnomes' D&D show it's a spin-off of the Casters and Castles series that they have. Have you seen that with Sideshow and Bren
A little
and
bit.
Ubers on there? Yeah, they have a recurring campaign that they do on Tuesdays, but he's also Tormented by Gnomes has also started a one-off series with a bunch of different people. And I did an episode yesterday that was a one shot, and I maybe took it a little too seriously. Maybe went into character a little bit, and maybe sabotaged, maybe sabotaged our chances of success, or perhaps I gave us the only shot at victory. Who knows? You're gonna have to check that out. I'll
Based solely off your description, I'm 100% positive which was true.
All I'm saying is that I may have salvaged it at the end by channeling my inner pistachio
Spoiler.
disguisey.
Spoiler alerts.
I said may. I said may have. Also,
All I know is saboteur.
all I'm saying is that the episode is 3 hours long. So if the exact ending of it is all you care about, you're probably enjoying these D&D type shows wrong. But I had a ton of fun doing it. You should definitely check it out. I was on with Tormented by Gnomes with the DM, Moirai, Volamel, and Kenobi. So really, really good cast and a lot of fun.
Great group there. You also have been very busy to the extent where you forgot that you hosted Streamer Showdown for MTG Arena.
Oh, that's right. I did do that.
So,
Wow,
yeah,
that feels
you guys
like it
can
was
check
so
that
long
out.
ago. That was not
Blevins
even a week ago.
is basically everywhere at the moment.
I did unironically get asked when I sleep today because they're like, wait, you're doing this too? And I'm like, I guess I am. Yes, I literally forgot that I did a really important thing that was really great. You should definitely check that out too if you're into MTG.
The answer is he doesn't. He's busy doing Minesweeper podcasts and Free Cell podcasts in his spare time.
I don't do
Also
solitaire podcast.
Also a podcast about, you remember that arcade game that came with Windows XP? He does a podcast
the
about that
pinball one.
The pinball one. Yeah, the pinball.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I do have a podcast about that. I have a podcast about the upcoming Pokemon Auto Battler that's going to be coming out. It hasn't been announced or released.
Or really even hinted at. It's just been asked for by the public.
Yeah, but I know it's coming, so I've already started the podcast for it. We go over the meta, the esports.
But that said, if you guys are looking for a co-host, Blevins is still available. You'll know he's full. You'll know he's full of podcasts to do when his last two are time management podcast and then the podcast about podcasting. Those are always the last two that completely fill out your schedule.
Right.
So until you see those, assume he's available.
That's true. If you're looking for a co-host, hit me up. Please, God, don't do that. Well, let's move on. And oh god, I pressed the wrong button. Oh god, it's all failing. The House of Cards is coming down. But let's move on here and let's talk about some news. There we go. Got lots and lots of news here. Let's start with Heezy. Or no, sorry, not Heezy. Hisu. Not he's me, he's you. Hisu has been signed by the Philadelphia Fusion. He's a hit scan player from Runaway. A lot of fanfare around this announcement, actually.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of people that are obviously very big Runaway fans from the Tier 2 scene, rightfully so. They can lose whole rosters, sign new ones, still compete, and go to the end of the Contenders season. Mm-hmm. So obviously they're a sought-after organization and team, so people do get pretty excited about this one. This particular signing, I've got to say, why? This is one of those why signings to me. And it's nothing about Hisu individually. It's about Carpe, EQO, and Ivy are already there. And we've seen this team not need to go outside of Carpe and EQO in order to play almost any meta. Right. decent to have the option to have another hit scan. They did use Carpe Snillo a little bit during a double hit scan meta in season 1.
True.
But so maybe they get some mileage out of it there. It's certainly not a negative here for the Philadelphia Fusion.
Right.
I don't want to indicate that in any way. I'm just not sure it's actually a positive, right? Outside of Carpe getting the flu or having an injury or something like that, and maybe that's all this is. And generally speaking, you don't think, man, well, he's too talented to be on my bench, right? You go, no, I want the best players I can in case I need them. But it doesn't move the needle for me as far as where I think the Philadelphia Fusion are, and that is absolutely brutally hard capped by their well below average, if not worst main tank player in the league. And so it's just a signing that doesn't fix their problems, doesn't really do anything. It's just a bit of a depth signing. It's a very good depth signing. But it's probably still just going to be Carpe and EQO on DPS for this team the whole way, and this signing doesn't really impact anything for me. But great to see him get a chance to join the league, and maybe I'm wrong. I could easily see him being better than EQO in certain metas, and Carpe was far from lights out last year. So maybe it's insurance in case, it's not he was bad at Reaper, it's he's not great at Overwatch now, sort of a thing. But I don't know. Your coaches should know that already, I think, right? So
right. Well, the other possibility is that this is a replacement and we're losing either EQO or Carpe. I don't remember their...
They were both announced as resigns, so I would.
They were
be
announced
very
as resigns. Okay.
Yeah, they were both in their roster announcement video. Their initial. They had a video with all of them. EQO was even we were debated. He was left off, and then they came back at the end of the video. So
maybe it's a super debate. No, okay. I guess with that information, then.
Yeah, 4 DPS is fine, but it's a very good player that would have moved the needle on some other teams, I think, and just didn't on this one. So as a non-fan of Philly, I'm just uninspired, unexcited by the signing. But if I was a fan of Philly, I'd be super pumped because I think he just adds more talent to a roster that's already got quite a bit.
Right. And you want to start developing, if you're putting all of your stock in Carpe EQO, you really want to show, from the organization side, you want to show some diversification and growth for the if Carpe, think about it from their perspective. If Carpe is still kind of lackluster like he was, in season 2, the team's going to want something different, right? And do you want to get something new at the time? Do you want to pick someone up new in mid-season, or do you want to have that key piece on the roster already, developing, learning from Carpe, getting what you can from him? And even if Carpe and EQO are great or at least decent, if I'm Philly, what I want is Carpe to pop off at the beginning of the season, or show that improvement and then ship him in the mid-season, because you've seen the bottoms. You don't need the bottoms. If you can get someone else and have them take that torch, that's great. But if you can recover from that bottom, it's okay, well, we got some of this back. Let's get Carpe out. People are going to, potentially invest on him based on what he was in season 1, even though he might not be. Obviously, Philly has more knowledge into this than I do, but that's a possibility and a method that they could use. And I think it could be, Philly is in a position where they have one of the players who has that sort of prestige around them, where they can they can get the press around it, because people are going to be talking about Carpe moving no matter what. People are going to care about that move. It's going to be a big move, at least from the media side of it, for the league. And then also you can use those performances and that sort of brand of Carpe to get more out of him from the team's perspective. So.
Yeah, it's asset or capital that might help them get an honest to God main tank someday.
Maybe
I need to just stop even talking about it, because I feel like every time I do,
they had one.
Just nope, that's one more season. You're every time I say Sato sucks, it adds a year, and I just want the league to be better and all the teams to be better.
All you need to do is just hit up Sato and be like, "Hey man, can you boost my account and I'll get banned?" Cool. Touchy subject. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get crapped on in the Discord. for being insensitive. I don't care. Next up is No Smite has been traded from Hangzhou, the Hangzhou Spark, to the Paris Eternal. This one's a little spicier, I think.
Yeah. Listen, Paris has done a ton this offseason. I
Mm-hmm.
think I missed the episodes where we talked about some of their signings
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So, they were the one team when I looked back on last week's episode, and I'm surprised we didn't get any tweets about it or anything, but we
Mm-hmm.
didn't put Paris on the offseason winners list, and they clearly were.
Yeah.
You know, this is great. They ditched the soft region locking they were doing to themselves. They
Mm-hmm.
decided for either full Korean or mixed. It's hard to tell, but at the moment there's still European players on the roster,
Mm-hmm.
so we have to assume mixed. We'll see what actually hits the stage. No Smite is not a world beater. He's not a top
Right.
5 Overwatch League. What he is he's a very solid player, something they didn't have on that roster in that
Mm-hmm.
position. And so I think he makes a sizable difference there in Paris. And something that came up in the pre-show, how I always talk about how are we analyzing players based off of team performance? And this could be a case where Hangzhou didn't look great early. And
Right.
was it No Smite's fault? Was he playing poorly, or was it just that the team kept switching their roster around and playing musical chairs and hadn't settled on something yet? And
Mm-hmm.
it's telling they didn't settle on No Smite when he had sizable playtime, and they went with Gushue. But that doesn't necessarily have to mean No Smite was a problem, a detriment, or
Right.
anything like that. So I think we can expect him to be a stabilizing presence in Paris, give their tank line a decent building block, I
Mm-hmm.
should say. There's room for improvement. I'd love to see Ben Best shipped out, somebody else brought in maybe
Yeah.
as well, just in case he doesn't pan out, because is even though it's likely or possible that he wasn't playing poorly and wasn't really contributing or a big part of the reason why Hangzhou was lackluster, it's just as likely that he was.
Right.
So you have to recognize both things are a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Since we know Ben Best isn't an answer, I'm not sure No Smite's enough, but it's a great start. It's a much better position than they were in prior to the signing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely a solid one. And good for Hangzhou too, right? They probably made a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Paris didn't break the bank for No Smite, but made a couple bucks, freed up a roster spot on a player they'd already decided they weren't going to use.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a win-win for both teams, and
I agree.
this actually kind of makes me think about an interesting, how interesting of a move this might be. It just made me think about this because Paris, the soft region locking themselves in season 1 a little bit at least, now bringing in a Korean player I think No Smite's Korean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It almost is. So we talked about in the before season 1 and even before Overwatch League, like, is it a what's the best like roster? Is it full Korean? Is it mixed? Is it full something? Or I guess it was just, is it full one region or mixed? And it's like, well, there's advantages to being full one region, right? The language barrier. But actually, I think now with the way that the league has kind of been going, and I think if you ask us or an Overwatch League fan in 5 years, like, hey, are any of the teams region locked? Like, is there any team that's just building like only this region players? They're going to be like, no. Why would you ask such a stupid question? Just like if you asked a Major League Baseball or an NFL team, like, hey, is any team purposely only signing players from a certain region? You'd be like, that might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Why would you do that? And I think it's going to get that way. So region locking yourself, even though it may give you a slight advantage now, I think is actually a bad thing, not only because it's silly to do that from the skill of the player and lack of diversity perspective, but also from your organization is almost certainly going to be mixed in the future, so you need to prep. And like, if you're bringing in like your first Korean player to an English speaking roster, you're going to be like, oh, there's a whole other bunch of hoops to jump through to be like, oh, well, we need to make sure that this person is up to snuff with team communications. They understand that everything's going to be written in English. They have someone to help them, do their paperwork and stuff and coordinate so that you're making sure that they're at places that they need to be on time and stuff like that. Like, not having that in the first season that you're in the league is actually a detriment in the long run. So I don't know why this specific trade made me think about this phenomena, but I think teams are setting themselves up to be that way.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're seeing a shift in the way the league is going, thanks to the San Francisco Shock winning a title.
Yeah.
Last year, a full Korean roster won. So what did we see? We saw, bidding wars over the best Korean players and minimal signings from the West. And now it's definitely much more mixed as far as who's being signed.
Right.
And it's funny because I think you're absolutely correct about what the answer will be in 5 years, right? And I also fully expect them to be wrong, and for there to still be full Korean teams and possibly even full Westernized teams.
Right.
The Westernized teams won't be single country specific because the language is shared so much that there's just no obstacle to like going and getting somebody from Europe a lot of the time. But it's there's still going to be all those Koreans, and the answer to this has just been so obvious to me personally from the get-go that it's funny to me that it's been a debate. Like, the best way to build the best Overwatch team that you possibly can is to get the most talented 6 players into a room and find out if they work really well together, and if they do, you sign them and you coach them, and and it's not rocket science, and you need to just throw out all that extra stuff. And like you said, if your team came into season 1 with a mixed roster and you had all those things in place and you were good to go, a lot of people made a lot of noise. Houston's going to a mixed roster. Are they? Or was their head coach fluent in Korean, their entire team fluent in English this entire time? Was Arhan on the bench almost the entire time? Were they learning calls in Korean to help help him feel a little more at home the couple times they brought him in? Yeah, they did. So they've already started that process. Now they're not as far along as San Francisco is, Philadelphia is, because
where the teams will be in 5 years or however many.
Right. But they've already gone down that road, and they showed and proved that they weren't region locking themselves. They chose a team that happened to not have any Korean players on it to start out and build around, and then we're completely willing to go get Korean talent to fill it in. So that's got to be the answer, and this is something Paris is definitely very quickly gotten the gist of here. And I think they said, it's great to have all the Paris fans behind your team. We have one of the best fan bases in the league, but when you suck, you're uniting them against you. Right. So now all the power of that awesome fan base is you're the target instead of the object of praise or fandom. And so you've got to switch that. You can't just sit there and be bad and people aren't going to be okay with it because you've got a national team. So yeah, it's definitely great to see Paris doing this, and I don't see any teams left that are really honest to goodness, like region locking themselves. It looks that way with Toronto, but look at the roster, look at the flags next to their names. They're not. They prioritized star players from their home country, which is completely fine. As long as they perform, but yeah, they were willing to go elsewhere. They just got what they were looking for from within their own region's talent pool.
Just like the Cleveland Cavaliers weren't region locking themselves with LeBron James because he was from Cleveland. Oh, that's a player to region lock yourself for sure.
Really? I thought he was in where'd he go? Miami?
He went to Miami, won championships, then came back to Cleveland, won championships, and now is in LA and losing middling success. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That is what it is. Okay. That was a tangent I wasn't expecting to go on, but I think it's interesting because I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, it was good to have it. We've skipped over a lot of Paris stuff just in our haste of the off seasons.
For sure. Next up, we've got Brusson has joined the Boston Uprising scene, or has joined the Boston Uprising. He's been in the EU scene, Team Netherlands and Overwatch World Cup, Angry Titans, Young and Beautiful, Bazooka Puppies, and some, I'm sure, like many of these tier 2, tier 3 players, probably about a dozen other teams that will never see the light of day.
Yeah, this one is an interesting signing to me. Somebody a little bit under the radar, but I
Mhm.
mean, with his resume being what it is, probably shouldn't be.
Which is
So
classic Boston, right?
yeah, this is to me just the classic Boston signing. Somebody that I think has a decent amount of upside to them if it
Hmm.
can be realized. And listen, I'll never be done hating on Boston. Okay, but I said that I'm done doubting them.
Right.
Okay, they always come in, they find listen, last year didn't go the way they wanted. That's going to happen plenty with this Boston team. It's
Hmm.
going to not work out at times, but there's something, right? The madman Huck, he's got something's going on there,
Hmm.
right? Like doing something right. And he always brings in players that either find success there in Boston or move on, find success elsewhere after they sell them, or whatever it is. So this is a player that we've seen around a bunch. He's performed reasonably well on teams that maybe weren't great, but we talked about it earlier. Players on middling and bad teams aren't necessarily bad.
Hmm.
And I don't know enough about the tier two scene to say that's even the case with Bresson, right? Like some of these teams could have been very good in the EU scene. And I'm just not remembering it. But yeah, I think this is the quintessential Boston move for the offseason. It
Yep.
epitomizes what they are. Um, Still hate you, but I mean, I want to see. I want to see what Bresson's got here. Nothing negative to say about. I'm not gonna gloat about it either. Give a glowing review of the guy either. But
Right.
this one has potential. I
Yeah.
don't dislike this.
Any Boston honestly, the more unknown the player, if they get signed to Boston Uprising, like it makes me even more excited to see what they're like, what is really under the hood here, because we know Huck's not going to sign a player that's just nothing, right? Like it's not what he does. So definitely interested to see what Brusson has to offer for Boston Uprising. Next up here is Bianca, called up from XL2 up to the big leagues, the big squad, NYXL.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to this one. It was in the wind as a rumor at our recording time last week, and
Yes.
he's a very very well thought of prospect that was being called up here from XL2 to NYXL. I always tend to give a little bit more leniency, or I'm blanking on what the correct word is. I give a little more credit when they sign from within their own organization, right? They bring it up from
Yeah.
their own.
They've
This is
got.
a call up. It's
Yep.
not a signing out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, they let go of their XL2 contenders team. They did not want to let go of this player, which
Hmm.
tells you that he's probably shown a good amount to them, right?
Right.
They have reason to believe in him. So as a fan, as somebody that doesn't watch as much tier two as he wants to, that gives me a boost. That gives me a little bit of a faith that he's going to play out. And it's the exact signing we needed to see opposite Hotba, which we were both lukewarm about. Like, sure,
Right.
fine, great, but it's
It's more
not,
like lukewarm bud, not hot bud. Not hot
right.
bud.
Not Hotba. Yeah, lukewarm. So yeah, so listen, is he going to step in and replace one of the greatest off tank players in the world, Meko? Hey, do you know where he plays? Anyway, I digress. Is he going to be able to step in and fill the void that's left by Meko? We don't obviously can't know that, but now they've got two shots in their gun, right? They've got two goes at
Hmm.
this position, and I think that's obviously going to be really, really important. Looking to check and see on his age. I'm seeing a birthday of January 1st on Wikipedia, which means he will be 18 and ready to go for the start of the season. For whatever reason, I thought he was underage and might have come in
I
late.
thought someone said that I thought I
So
remembered seeing that as well.
maybe all they had is the year, and when that's the case, they just put
Just default to
January
January
1st.
1st.
I don't know.
So maybe he's
So
ineligible for part of the season.
put a pin in that. That might be the case. I remember hearing that from somewhere, but just like
Yeah.
somebody said it in Discord, nothing official. So I look into the age. The being January 1st makes me think that might not be a completely accurate birthday.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would make a lot of sense if he is not of age, where he is the player, kind of like the Super Sinatra deal for San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco. Of we've
Chat,
got
feel free to help us out if you know.
yeah, we've got other players in. We've got Hoppa. He's a veteran, but you know, we talked about it last episode. Probably not a world beater. Certainly not compared to Meko, unfortunately. Although I'm also rocking the Outlaws jersey right or the sweater right now. Um, he, but he's going to be able to fill the void for the time being. Maybe give some of that. Again, we talk about these like veteran players giving coaching and mentorship to the younger players just because that's how it works in traditional sports, right? Like the veteran comes in and is maybe there's an injury or something where the star player, the player that's up and coming, would be gaining something from that. I don't know if that's what really happens in Overwatch League. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just doesn't make sense that would happen. But regardless, like they need someone to fill the spot if Bianca is not able to play for a certain amount of time, and maybe Hotba just pops off and they don't need to use Bianca, or maybe they use him and maybe there's some choices there. I mean, NYXL is not known for going too deep in the deck, even though they had a lot of options. Insert Pine not seeing a minute in stage or in season 2. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. If Hotba is merely a replacement, if Bianca is specifically a prospect pick, and I just hope that he doesn't go the way of Flower and really kind of have these expectations and then literally just fall flat on his face and just not perform whatsoever.
I'm going to reorder our notes here a little bit and give the last announcement we have for NYXL, and that's IMT has taken the role of head coach for NYXL.
Mm-hmm.
He is promoted from within. He was an assistant coach for this team, I believe both of the last 2 seasons, at least season 2. I'm curious your take as a fan of this team. You lost what you lost, and I'm not trying to rub it in, so I'm not naming names or new locations, right? You lost what you lost, you gained what you gained, right? Is it enough to convince you as a fan or give you reasonable hope or upside as a fan that this team's going to be able to get over the hump and maintain elite high level? Are they going to roll over in the playoffs again is what I'm asking you, Blevins. What is your thoughts as a fan of this team?
I mean, maybe, right? Like he can't like coach. I think coaching and staffing preparation has so much to do with it because on paper, NYXL unarguably one of the best teams in the league, right? But they lose these games. They don't have really the clutch factor. I mean, granted, you can look at it very granularly, and we think of the Nene Grav, and we went back and had who was it, Taimu or whoever that explained why it was a good move. Okay, that's fine. I can give you that. But when we hear the reports or the rumors at least that NYXL wasn't preparing for the playoffs in season 1 and they didn't take it seriously and the sandbagging and all that, and like to me as a fan, all of that's just a bad coaching decision, and it compounded, right? You take that time off, you're not fresh, you're not crisp to play. You need to be doubling down on your preparation for playoffs, not slacking and hoping that you're going to just make it through on on your own skill. Like you need to be doubling down. You need to be practicing even harder for those playoffs and really getting and having the right mindset going into them. It seemed, and maybe this just kind of poured over in terms of my perception. Maybe it did change in season 2, but it seemed like that bad headspace for playoffs ported over to season 2. And again, that's coaching, right? Players, in the moment, especially young players, they're going to be emotional. They're going to take their wins and their losses emotionally. The coach and the coaching staff are responsible for taking those outliers and those blips and bringing them back down to or back up to where they need to be, right? If SBB gets countered in a map or in a game or something and they lose and he starts going off about how he's awful and all this, the coaching staff needs to bring him back up because he's a team leader, and really bring them back. So the changing of the coaching staff really is the biggest thing for me. Yes, losing Meko sucks. Bringing in Haba is, I don't think by anyone's estimation, an upgrade. I don't think it was ever meant to be an upgrade. And it really, more important than anything else, I mean, with the exception of like losing Jonak or something, the coaching was the most important thing that could happen here. Are we going to see Pine actually get used? Maybe. If not, maybe he's gone. Like, I want to see these types of things. Like, don't just stagnate, right? That's what seemed to happen. They had Flower just kind of stagnating. He didn't do anything. They had Pine, who literally didn't touch the stage in season 2, just doing nothing. And really, I mean, you can make the argument that NYXL still had a successful season 2 because they were, at the top of the standings a lot of him, but they didn't win any stage playoffs. They didn't win a championship. They didn't do particularly great in the end of season playoffs. Maybe you can define you can rate your level of success and define your success lower, and that's fine. But for me, as someone who sees this team and expects, championship contender, at least, like, the biggest thing for me in terms of improvement has to be the head coach, and changing the head coach at least gives me hope that it can happen. Now, is IMT gonna actually change anything? Who knows? But seeing that change is enough of a push in the right direction for me as a fan.
Yeah, you've got a shot at it for sure. Personally, when I look at this, I go, I don't think they changed enough. Right?
Sure.
Like, looking at it, I don't know, and it's a high wire act for sure, right? You don't want to blow it up when you finished in the 2 seed and you made it all the way through the winners bracket to play there was so much went well every year that the Excelsior have been in existence. It would be silly to blow it up and change too much. I guess my real problem is I wanted to see this team stop playing so passively. Okay.
Right.
It dominated for them in season 1, and I think meta specific, it's absolutely the way to go. If you can successfully catch a dive and counter it and respond in that way, I think that's the best way to play in a dive meta, right? To let the other team initiate. If you're good enough to repel them and win when they're initiating on you, that's great. That's ideal. When you're not, you just get the fights over faster, right? Like, if all of a sudden you're losing fights, you don't want them to drag on. You don't want them to take forever. You just want, okay, if we're losing, let's lose. That's why you see everybody jump off, like, right, 3 people are dead, the other 3 people jump off a cliff. It's because fights lost, get it over with, right? So I'd love to see New York with all their talent, with all their DPS players in their pool, and with maybe less peeling action coming from the off tank position. I would really want to see them flip the script, get really aggressive, and really push other teams. I think Mono can do it. I know the DPS can do it. You're putting Jonak in a cage to get him to not do that, right? So I think it plays really well into the play style of the individual players. We haven't seen the team do anything like that, really, so maybe it wouldn't work from that perspective. And I worry that IMT being there this whole time is just going to come in and run the team the same way.
Right.
They're going to continue to be, and it doesn't have to be bad. Maybe we're in dive meta by the time the season comes around, and then I think it's the exact right thing to do,
But that's short-term benefit, right?
Right. And I want to see a fundamental, a philosophical shift happen from this team. And that if all of a sudden they were just a hyper aggressive dive based, like, just run in there and blow people up, like, I think it would work for them. I think if there's a team that can make it work, there's, like, 3 or 4 of them that I think could do that on every map and every situation. New York's one of them. They've got the talent. So yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe a shift in play style would be enough. If IMT is going to do that, great. He's the right man for the job, in my opinion. If he's not, and they're going to continue to be passive, then to me, this is the same team minus some talent, and probably certainly a playoff team.
Right.
They're not downgrading tremendously, but I want to be convinced going into this year before they play a game that this team has a significantly better chance to win it all than they did last year, or I think it's a negative, a bad off season for them overall. And right now that's kind of where we're at. I lean more towards this not changing enough than I do it being good enough.
Yeah,
certainly possible. They've made some changes. Maybe one player's enough. Maybe just the coach was enough. I don't know. It certainly looks to me like they didn't have a choice on Meko. It seemed like he either wanted to cash a paycheck or just wanted to move on, personality, or whatever. But yeah, so it almost seems like he walked, and then this coaching staff. So I don't know. I almost wonder if they would have run it back again if they were really given the opportunity, right? If Meko didn't leave, Maybe they just upgraded the coach and run it back again. I don't know, but I'm glad they didn't. So
Yeah,
for
I mean,
many, including thanks for Mego, but yeah.
uh, what, do you, what do you think about like who's making the decision to book the head coach, right, or to sign the head coach? It's the GM, right, or I guess the
Should
front
be.
office,
Yeah.
the faceless entity of the front office of the NYXL. Um, it really is going to depend. Are they valuing someone who came in and made or someone who came into the interview, not necessarily came in from outside, obviously, since he wasn't brought in from outside, came into the interview and was like, I have a strong position to take, and here's here's what we're gonna do to win. Or is it, yeah, I can run this. I mean, I've been on the ship this whole time. I saw how the captain flew it. I can do that. You're hired. It's really going to depend on which of those two options is it, right? Is IMT going to stay the course, or does IMT actually have a vision to actually change the team? We don't know that yet. So all
Tune
I
into
can do is hope.
Overwatch League Season 3 to find out if IMT knows how to fly a ship.
Yes, a ship known as the NYXL. Let's talk about the Boston Uprising again, because Munchkin. Young Munch. I forget what did Taco call Munchkin on that Around the Payload episode. I can't
Oh my
remember.
goodness.
Lil Munch, Young Munch,
Old Munch.
Old Munch. I don't remember. Maybe he does.
I
I'll
don't
have
know.
to
I
message him.
actually messaged Taco a little bit the other day. I will see if he'll answer me. Maybe we'll get an
Yeah,
answer before
I
the
was
episode
talking to
ends.
him. I think last week too. We miss you, Taco. By the way. But regardless, Munchkin joined the Boston Uprising, and I don't know, is this the greatest thing for Boston Uprising, or is this the worst thing for Munchkin, or is it something else, or both?
This is another one okay, so this is the only reason this isn't kind of your typical Boston signing again for them, is that this isn't a player they can sell, right?
Right.
But this is a budget player.
True.
Um,
Who will probably give him more than he was worth.
right. I think he's going to perform more than his contract. See, he thinks it was Old Munch too. He's answering me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Old Munch.
It might be.
Good old Munch.
Good old Munch.
Oh, I miss you, baby. I'm not going to answer you anymore right now, but yeah, we definitely miss you. Big wigging us with your job at Google. All right. Anyways, yeah, Munchkin is going to perform really, really solidly for this team, assuming he does find his way into the actual
Starting roster.
starting roster, into the six on the stage. But either way, he'll be a solid bench signing. It's nothing exciting, but then again, when has a Boston signing ever knocked your socks off?
Literally never. It never has, and I can't imagine it will if they keep going the way they're going. But good overall. Again, probably a win-win for both parties. Like Munchkin, probably happy to be on a team, and the Boston Uprising probably happy to get whatever steal of a contract they got on Munchkin. Oh, Munch. Good stuff. All right, let's move on and talk about the Florida Mayhem, as Kuki for head coach, Yaki DPS, and Gong Nan Jin support player have all joined the Florida Mayhem. All of them were on Runaways last Contenders season.
Yeah, so we've seen a couple other runaway players kind of get piecemeal parted out to other teams. Hisu earlier. I'm blanking on the other ones, but definitely a couple of them. It's apparent to me that Florida made the effort to try to sign the whole roster. Like, I think they just wanted all of them.
It worked for Vancouver, right?
Right.
So.
Hisu's the one they didn't need because Saya player didn't go anywhere. They still got players on the roster. But this is going to be it's going to be a good chunk of, we're going to get more from Florida. We don't have it all yet, but I think a good chunk of the runaway team is going to end up over there. Mm-hmm. Kuki's a familiar name. He's the man that was not near as smart as Custa, who was too smart for the meta last year. That's not a meme on Kooky, by the way. It's a meme on the coach of
Yeah.
of the Valiant. I know
Yep.
it sounds like we're making fun of Kooky. We're not. So he's been around, obviously, Soul, Valiant, and then now he's been already with Runaway coaching them for a little while now. So if you're surprised to see him there, it's not a new move. It's just new to Overwatch League that he holds that position. Yaki was a really, really strong DPS player for Runaway, who, according to Discord, was carried by their DPS talent. So I think that he's a very, very interesting signing. We already know how good Saya player is. It's ridiculous levels of talent there. So a pairing to really match up with him. The rest of the tank, maybe get the tank line in, things like that. There's a lot good going on in Florida at the moment. They need to, however, there's no amount of signings that give you organizational confidence in this team, right? They've been too bad for 2 years now. So it's hard to just buy in and say it's going to work. Traditional sports have taught us that there's teams that can make all the signings in the world. Their fatal flaws in their management, in how they operate, and how they run things. And this is a big, big year for Florida, right? Because they're not that yet, right? We're asking the question if they are, but they're not there yet. And if they flop again this year with all the talent they're bringing in, they will be. So yeah, exactly what you wanted to see if you've got a Florida Mayhem jersey in your closet, right, Blevs?
It's true.
And
I do have one of those.
You do. I think a lot of people do, though, because those are some pretty sweet third jerseys.
Pretty great cheesy.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Okay, if you've got a non third jersey, Florida Mayhem jersey somewhere in your closet,
if you have a McDonald's uniform in your closet,
yeah, then you're super pumped, and you should be. There's a lot of potential here in what Florida's building. So we're going to hold our full analysis of everything until we see how all the pieces fit together and see where they're at when things wrap up. But good start for a team that was very late to get into announcements, at least.
Yeah, I mean, again, head coach, big moves. I think unless you're an actual superstar, and even then, you could argue head coach is still more important at this point. But it's just hard to really, really quantify it. I think head coach and having that support system, again, beating a dead horse, but going into season 3 where we're going to be playing on the road a bunch and blah, 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 blah. I think head coach is absolutely crucial, more so than most of the positions on the team. And, bring someone on with success, with success behind them and and experience with a strong team of Runaway, and bringing on a bunch of players from Runaway. That's, you've got your core, right, that knows the coach and knows the system. So that's all very good things for Florida. But I agree, you need to. We have learned to all too well that a preseason look does not a team's postseason record determine. That didn't make any sense, but you get what I mean. We need to see the results before we really brand this, because we've seen on paper Florida has looked good at different points in time, and it has never panned out. All right, we've got London, one of our losers from last episode, has announced their initial 2020 roster. We've got J-Mac, main tank from LGE Huya. Bernard, off tank from Fusion University. Glister, DPS from Gen G. Shui. DPS from Runaway, who left Runaway in July. Krillin, retained from last season at the DPS spot. Highly, flex support from Seoul. Fuse, main support for Fusion University, also played for Gen G. And Sanguinar, main support from Gen... Is that actually Gen B, or is that supposed to be Gen B? Okay, from Gen B.
It is. Sanguinar is a bench prospect. I'm pretty sure of it. He came from a Contenders team's secondary team, and I know very little about him other than that. So yeah, I would be. I would be very surprised to see him start over Fuse, who people know a little bit. He's been around.
Yeah.
Certainly possible, though. I mean, you don't get signed like right. This wasn't like Gen G is Soul. I'm fairly certain, right? Like
Right.
that's their. So this isn't a call up from their own, right? Like he trialed for them. He showed something. They wanted to bring him in, but I'm guessing he's probably going to be on the bench for a while. The rest of the roster here, I mean, it's fine, but like
My
we
my
said before, go ahead.
I was just saying my reaction to this whole thing when I first saw it was, who? Like you guys won 2 years ago, right? Like, and none of that team exists anymore. Like that team is no players from the championship winning team is here. Like not a single player. Am I right? I don't think so. There's not a
You're right.
single player from the championship winning team on this team, which makes me think like, why would I think anything positive about this team other than what these players themselves have shown, which right now is nothing.
That's fair. There's a couple of them that have shown something though.
Sure, again,
I was asking for Krillin to come
contenders,
back.
truthers. Okay.
Or no, is Krillin? Am I getting Krillin wrong? Was it?
Krillin's the bald guy from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. Yeah. No, I am getting Krillin wrong. He was not the DPS. That was their flex support. So I've got that that twisted.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't see Krillin last year at all. So yeah, nobody that really played any significant time is returning. I will say I remember J-Max. I remember him a little bit. And when I looked into his history, okay, he's played for a bunch of teams that I've never seen play. Okay, so if I'm being perfectly honest, I've never seen LGE Huya and I've never seen White Whale Indian Esports. Okay, so that means if I know this guy, it's from his time on Foxes back in Apex Season 4. So if he's still sticking out in my brain, at least at that time, he was probably pretty solid. So I
Right.
think there's a decent chance he'll be a good tank. Bernard's another one, a really, really solid, good prospect with a lot of potential. But after that, Hiley, I thought played pretty well in Seoul. He almost certainly didn't live up to his potential, right? Since he was part of the musical chairs roster that was going on, never got to get settled and get comfortable anywhere. Maybe he can do that here, play a little better than he did at the time. But the problem with this roster has got nothing to do with the players that they signed. It's the issues, the players they let go. It's that they're not adding to Gesture and Profit and Fury and Bedosin.
Right.
It's they're replacing that 4-player all-star core that they had entirely. So it's very, very difficult to have anything nice to say about this team. But that said, I don't think we're looking at a basement dwelling roster, if I'm being honest with you. I think we're looking at a mid-table. Like, I think they're going to be the 2020 Paris Eternal from last year, right? Like, they're going to be that. We'll beat some people. We'll surprise you. We'll give you. People will buy in. People will think they're going to be good, and then they're just going to fall back to what they kind of thought they were at the beginning. I don't know. So that would be my guess. London got worse, and about 16, 17 teams in the league got better. So where that puts them in the scheme of things is very hard to say. But I don't expect an optimistic power rankings or a placement for them, anything like that. But and we kind of talked about it last week. It's a rough time to be a Spitfire fan right now. But yeah, gotta hold out. Let's see what these guys got. There's talent here, and how much they're just you're in that pool with everybody else where. What are they? How do they fit? Who levels up? Who falls off? Who can travel? Who hates it? Who collapses under that? Like, So yeah, that's where we're at with this team. Instead of going, okay, well they just they signed 2 players to fill in for Bird Ring. If one of them pops, they're great. That could have been the conversation we were having about this team, but instead it's full reset. So it's tough.
I think it was, if I had to guess, London probably did everything in their power to keep Profit and Jester, just like any sane team owner or GM would do. Profit and Jester, flexed their right to do what they did with their contracts and move and say, hey, we don't want to be here anymore. We're going to Seoul. Okay. At that point, if you're London, do you cling to the dream of Birdring? Do you cling to the dream of your other player? Like, I mean, yes, there are other players they could you could cling to as well, but do you really, like, if it's not profit and gestures specifically, I can almost see, like, yeah, you lose them, just press the reset button, which is obviously what they did. Maybe it didn't pan out that like I described, but I could see that being a reasonable line of like, well, we're not keeping the players that we would have wanted as a core. There was no amount of money or whatever that could keep them here. Screw it. We're just reset buttoning here, and that's what they did. So, yeah, if I'm a London fan here, I'm concerned for sure. You're not instilling confidence in me in the fact that you couldn't keep our best players. That doesn't make me feel good, but it doesn't make me feel bad about these players specifically, like you said. It has nothing to do. It's not you, it's me, okay? It's not you guys. It's our ex here, okay? It's we had when you've dined with the likes of Profit and Gesture, the mere mention of a Glister or a JMac just seems like such a trivial trivial thing to think of. So I don't know. Definitely a big question mark here, which is somewhat exciting, but it's not exciting if I'm a London fan who's expecting them to perform. We'll see.
Yeah, I was trying to look up the old contract status article that was on OverwatchLeague.com, and I feel like it's gone. I can't find it anywhere.
Might be. It should be. Oh, I'm not gonna look for it now, but it should be in our show notes from.
Yeah, it's around somewhere, but for some reason I don't think all those. I think some number of their stars were under their control. I don't think they lost people.
Well, then I think they messed up horrifically.
Yeah, I think they just made a terrible, terrible decision.
They've made a terrible mistake.
Listen, time will tell. Esports isn't traditional sports.
Right.
You don't get to rely on somebody's athletic peak lasting until they're 32 years old or what, you know what I mean?
True.
For every sport.
Mm-hmm.
There's not been enough time in Overwatch to know what trends are, and it could be that your window as an elite player is around 2 to 3 years,
Right.
and they think Profit and Gesture and them have it's past them, you know,
or it's not, and you're just selling high, which again I can also commend.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case too. So I can get it if they wanted to make money off of what they had when they looked at, hey, we weren't that good, but we can get paid for our players like we were that good.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they decided to do it. But yeah, I just think their memory was too short. They forgot that roster won a championship very, very recently.
It does seem weird when you think about it like that. Last one we'll talk about here is for your boys in green. Hurag is a coach for the Outlaws. We talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, but what are your overall thoughts on this one, Def?
Well, listen, where was Hurag in season 1, Blevins?
Yep. On the
London
Spitfire. Okay, I was right.
So playing in the grand finals. Where was he season 2?
With the Vancouver Titans.
Also playing in the grand finals. So now he's on Houston. Where's Houston going to be at the end of season 3? Playing in the grand finals, baby.
Watch it. Well, they'll be at the grand finals.
I know better than
stands.
I know better than to let you answer that question. I know you can't finish that one for me. I got to do it. But so Hurag to Houston is a pretty solid signing. Their coaching staff last year without an owner was much smaller than everybody else's. So they were going and they let go what they had, right? Most of it at least. So they were going to need to bring in more players. This is a Korean-speaking coach coming in to speak, to coach a now half Korean roster. So it makes sense. They're integrating the coaching staff. Hurag's another guy coming from Vancouver with the head coach, right? So to me, this is Harsha bringing over the talent that he can. Like he's stealing from the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah.
I think Hurag was probably going to be let go by them regardless. But listen, he got his shot on the stage. It didn't super work out. He wasn't terrible. It didn't blow up in his, whatever. But he wasn't on the same level as the DPS players they had. I think this is a great move for Houston. I think it's a great move for Hureg, who I think was going to struggle to maintain a spot in the league, or he's going to probably have to go back to contenders. So now he's staying in the pro scene. I think it's the best thing for his esports career as a whole. All of it seems good. I mean, we're not people to bash coaching signings, almost whoever, right? Like Kai got fired and then got hired by places, and I said, great. Like, just because he wasn't a good head coach doesn't mean he's not going to be a good assistant coach.
Right.
We've seen a lot of players transition to coach. It's very hard to track the success and the failures. I've not heard of any, rousing failures, but you look at Kuki's got a head coaching job, where he's not the first player transition to coach announcement of this episode, let alone this offseason. So I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it's a great thing to add more coaches, especially for a team that had fewer than everybody else. So all things considered, I mean, this is just the Outlaws train, man. Just coming down the tracks.
It's true. And you know what that train is
are coming.
It pains me to do that every time, but I have to, contractually obligated. But overall, I mean, good. Obviously, we can beat the dead horse of more coaching is good. All that stuff, but you've heard it a million times by now, so we'll spare you that. But overall, I think good. I mean, I'm actually kind of interested to see where London heads with this roster, because this is like probably the biggest like new roster. I mean, this is a new roster, right? This is a brand new roster, new team. Like, this is probably the biggest change, right? Like, literally nothing from last year, or from 2 years ago. Krillin was technically on the team, I think. Don't know if he played.
Not season 1, season 2.
Right, exactly. But yeah, we are just about out of time. We can save this.
Let's do a quick break it down. I can run through it real fast.
All right. Well, if you want to do it, then we will. Breaking it down. The new regular season matches are going to be played in a new format. Death, why don't you talk to us about it?
Sure. So new in 2020, teams will play regular season matches in a 1-to-3 format. No more map 4s when somebody's already won 3-0. That's going to mean a couple different things. Predominantly for me, though, it means tiebreaker changes. Map record, not all teams are going to play the same maps. It could be map win percentage, I don't know, but it's going to be at least slightly different based off of, they're not going to use just a hard and fast record, I don't think, to break that tie. It'll go to a percentage, something along those lines. Each match will open with control, and then teams will play hybrid, assault, and escort in an order that rotates across matches to ensure they are played evenly throughout the season. So maps 2, 3, 4 will shift around and be different each time. Okay, it's like they said, they want to make sure game modes are equally represented across the season. If they're stopping after map 3, sometimes there's 4 game modes, one of them won't get played, so they're going to do their best to even that out. It'll be interesting to see how that works. If a match reaches the 5th map, only control maps will be played until a team gets to 3 map wins. After every 2 maps are played, teams will get a quick break to strategize. Now, that could mean multiple control maps to wrap things up, right? Escort can draw, or not, Escort technically can, but 2CP can draw, hybrid can draw. So you could get to map 5 and it's 2-2 still, right? And now you have to, or it would be 1-1 in that case, right?
Right.
So you're going to have to just keep playing control until somebody gets to 3. That's great. That makes sense to me. That's phenomenal, right? All these extra traveling concerns, all these extra things that are going on, taking away a couple maps that don't need to be played because the winner's decided, phenomenal way to alleviate some of that pressure and still not really impact what's going on, right? It still feels to me like we're getting the same amount of actual relevant Overwatch that I want to be watching, instead of just some maps at the end of the night where I'm forced to keep my eyes open while I'm getting ready for bed or something like that.
Well, plus, like, there needs to be more control on the actual physical amount of time that is taken in these, because, like, it's not the Blizzard Arena staff that's doing the cleanup, that's doing the production. We are in the arena of other, other places in a lot of cases. You're not. I mean, Philly is going to have their own thing or whatever, but like for Toronto, I know like it's not like the venue is owned by the Toronto Defiant. It's a separate venue that needs to be maintained, cleaned by staff, needs to be, people need to be out by a certain time. I'm imagining you don't just get the venue for until the event's over. It's like, oh, at a certain time we kick you out, or you get charged for that extra day, sort of thing. So yeah, no, all this sort of logistical stuff for the traveling season makes a lot of sense.
Next, in order to keep map variety fresh, so you guys know there's no stages next year. So to replace them, you're getting stages. Bear with me. They're going to be changing out the map pool 4 times during the season, just like they did before. The difference here is that all control maps will be played throughout the entire season. There is no King of the Hill map pool. Okay, they're all always fair game. And each map pool will feature 3 maps from each of the other game modes. Those will be rotating. And then you will get a new one for the postseason. And in lieu of stage playoffs, you get bi-stage playoffs, like every 2-stage playoff, essentially, right? There's a mid-season tournament that's happening alongside the All-Star game. Finally, something during the All-Star game I might want to watch. And so I actually love that about this. If they're going to do one, it's the perfect time. Top 4 teams will compete in a single elimination bracket. It's going to take the top seed from each division, and then it will just take the next 2 best regardless of where they come from. It's basically going to be a season 1 stage playoffs that's very small and isolated to a couple teams.
That's awesome.
The weird thing about it to me is that they're deciding who those 4 teams are after like 9 games or something. There's no stages to make it even, and they're doing it in the early half, so that way the teams have a little time to prepare. Listen, this is exhibition. We don't need to give them the most. I think it's just
right. Just need to be fair. Yeah.
When you cut for the All-Star break, who's the top 4? To me, they're getting a little too cute with it, but whatever. People love these mid-season tournaments. We're cutting down on them, which will be, I think, a boon to the players. It'll be helpful for them. And that's great, but it's still letting the fans have a little bit of this, and they've been vocal. I've been vocal. I haven't liked it. I'm losing. Very much. And I don't want to win either. I don't care to watch them. I just have to talk about them because I have a podcast where I need to cover them.
Right.
And I happen to not enjoy them that much. So that's why I talk about it so much. It's not that I actually wanted to see them go away. So if fans are liking them and digging them, great. And if you guys want to hear me talk about how the games that get played in that tournament mean nothing to me as I evaluate teams going into the second half of the year, get ready because we're going to be right back to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a hedge, right? Like it's not all of the stage playoffs, but it's still a little bit, I guess, kind of. And a little bit. They're getting better, which is good.
Slightly, I don't want to go on a tangent about it. Do you see what the NBA is doing?
No.
Adding a play-in tournament and a mid-season tournament at the All-Star break. Like literally these changes for Overwatch to the NBA season.
A play-in tournament
it's
what?
At least being to the playoffs. They're copying Overwatch.
They're copying Overwatch League. Oh,
yeah, and they're putting it into the NBA.
Wow.
Monty tweeted about it. Check it out.
Oh yeah, I did see Monty complaining about it, but he was kind of crapping on it and saying,
yeah, he was like super wrong-headed about it. I don't know. Anyways, so we'll save that. That can be a conversation for a week when we're actually really light on things to talk about.
Yeah, we had a good amount this week, but. With that being said, that is going to be it for this episode, guys. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check us out live, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast on Mondays at 7 Eastern. Next week is right after a holiday, so asterisk. We don't know. It's always a game time decision for those ones, but we will
some traveling going on for us, so
yeah,
we'll see
traveling and all that good stuff. It'll be game time decision, but nonetheless, we will be back and ready for action in the coming weeks, despite the off season. But it's been an exciting one so far. But again, thank you everyone for listening. Check us out at highnoonpodcast.com. Again, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. Pretty much anywhere on the internet you can find us, High Noon Podcast. We are all over the place, and we got that sweet name for all of the places. But that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, again, for Deathblow. I am the Blevins, and remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
If you guys like stage playoffs, put at Kyle Win in the Discord and put a 1. If you don't like them, put at Kyle Win and put a 2.